We're out here in the evening because it was really hot during the day and we didn't want to start this project when it was really hot. The first slide that you saw was this piece of wood sitting on top of the fire pit. And I don't know where the piece of wood came from. I think Dad cut it out. We put a handle on it, and the reason we do that is this fire pit over here, when it rains, it gets water in it. And then you have to wait for days and days for it to dry out because it has sand in the bottom of it. And if you spill the sand out, then you get it all over the nice decorative rock that's down below there, okay? So, we put a lid over it to keep the water out of it. And I painted it years ago with some bamboo and stuff, as you can see, and it's faded and it's derelict. So, a few of you have asked how I made my tabletops, my glass beaded tabletops in my Moroccan room. So this is a little DIY to show you how to do it. So we've put it up here on the sawhorses and we've sanded it down a little bit. And now I'm going to walk over here while the iron is heating up. And I'm going to show you this edging that I bought at the local hardware store. And you can see it's called veneer edging. There's also some that comes in a kind of a white plastic and kind of a brown plastic. And it's an iron-on edging, so we're actually going to iron it on the edge with the lower part of it even with the wood, so the bottom of the wood, in other words. And it'll stick up a little bit, so it's going to hold our resin in place once we get our glass beads in place and pour the resin over it. It'll keep it from falling off the edge. Okay, so this is our first step. I'm going to come up really close so you can see how it works. See, it's glued all the way around there by just ironing it on. There's where it joints, so you lap it over. Because this is an old piece of wood that we're using, you can see that the edge is really irregular. Yours that you would buy from Home Depot, it would have a nicer, smoother edge and it would be fine. So, I took care to make sure that the glue and the edging was on there really good. And then I also took Gorilla Glue. I'm sure you guys have heard of that before. And I went around the base of it because I could see a little bit of light here and there. And if you have any light, the resin is going to pour down through that and through the hole and run off of your tabletop. So you want to have it really nice and tight around the edge. We'll look down here. And I know this looks tall around the edge. It looks like we're going to have a really thick, but we're not. What we're going to do is we're going to put the beads on it. We're going to pour the resin so that the tops of the beads are still showing a little bit. And then once the resin is dry, we're going to go along with a like a box knife or any kind of cutter that you're familiar with and can work with without cutting yourself. And we're going to trim off the top of that because that edging is really, really thin and easy to work with. It's kind of like balsa wood is what it's like, if you're familiar with that. So now I'm going to paint the handle so that that'll be done. It'll end up curing overnight. I might give it another little bit of Gorilla Glue on the bottom before we start the top again tomorrow. But tomorrow we'll come out here and we'll start putting in the beads. And your top would normally be just a wood color, but you can paint it beforehand. You can leave it a wood color, or like I'm going to leave this because it's just going to bleed through and it'll be just fine. So, okay, that's it for this evening. Alright, so we're out in the shop this morning. We're going to put the beads, the colored beads, on top of our fireplace cover. You can see that I decided to paint it last night after all because it's an older piece of wood and this gives us a nicer surface, and it also fills in some of the cracks. We went around it with a bead of the Gorilla Glue on the inside this morning so that we wouldn't have any leaks going on. Then here are all of our lovely glass pieces. As you can see, I get carried away when I get into any of the craft shops and see pretty pieces of glass. I can't resist them. They're like books. And you can see that there are some that have a shape to them. Those are stars. Here we actually have some hearts. These, I love recycling. These were actually shower curtain hooks. And I took the hook off the back and then I painted them because they were really just white, and we're going to incorporate those. There's a little group here of flowers, and then down here are some butterflies because we're going to make it an outdoor scene, obviously. Alright, so I'm going to take you over this way and introduce you to my cohort in crime. This is Geraldine. Ah, there she is. And she's going to help me lay out the beads because it is quite a lengthy process. But first, I'm going to go get my chalk from inside, and we're going to chalk out a design on it so we have something to go by. We have our mood music going. We have a chalked in design here. I don't know if you can tell by this, but it's going to be a large bouquet. And we're just going to incorporate the dragonflies and the butterflies and everything into it. And so we have our coffee and our tea in hand. We have our classical music on. We're going to sit down and take this on. We'll check in with you in a little bit when we have the finished product. Alright, so we have created our floral arrangement here. And you can see I'm going to zoom in here on a little bit of detail. You can see that we put our dragonflies in there. We've put a few butterflies. And the dragonflies will stand up so people won't be able to put their cup on it. But all around the edge we tried to concentrate on the fact of putting flat beads because then everything will sit on it, okay? Now the next, I'm going to turn around here and show you all that we used. You saw how much we had. This is how much we have left. Okay, you can see that there is not very much left. So, the moral to our story is be sure to have plenty or be able to run out and get some more. This is 36 inches across, so this is bigger than the little tables in the Moroccan room by a good foot. Now the next step is this stuff right here. Pour on high gloss finish. It's a resin. You're supposed to pour it at least 1/8 of an inch deep, but only 1/8 of an inch deep, because if you pour it any deeper than that, it'll take forever to dry. If you pour it 1/8 of an inch deep, it says that it takes 72 hours. And let me have Geraldine help us here. Oh, assistant, could you open this and show us what the bottles look like inside? So there she is, Vanna White's hands. We're not showing you the whole thing. Okay, so there's these two bottles here, and we're going to mix them together because we're going to, it says it covers 4 square feet, and because this is 3 feet across, I'm thinking we're going to have plenty to do it 1/8 of an inch deep. And we're actually going to mix it together in a container, and we're going to pour very slowly in a drizzling fashion, like if you were doing pancake syrup, over the top of this, and because it's going to run, it's going to find its lowest point. And so that's the way we're going to work on it, okay? So we'll come back here in a minute and show you what it looks like in the finished. So we're back to our project now, and we have poured the resin on it. You can see how bright and shiny it is and nice. We used the full package that I bought yesterday, and then we used half of an additional package. So buy 2 containers, even though you think that maybe that's too much. You can always take the other one back to the local craft store, because once you start pouring, you want to get a full coverage of it. And you'll get some little bubbles. Let me see if I can show you over here. We're going to zone in really close. Let me get it into perspective for you, hopefully. There. See those little bubbles there? Those bubbles, you can exhale on them and they will disappear. Also, if it's just in a nice warm place, those will evaporate eventually. They say to exhale on them. So ours is, let's see if I can get it up here and get it in focus. Tapping, there we go. Ours is a big bouquet. I don't know if you can tell that or not, but that's what we intention to have, seeing as it's going to go out in the garden on top of the fireplace. I'll bring you back here in 48 hours once this is all set up. We'll take the edging off, not fully off, but we're going to trim it down. So let me zoom in here again. So we don't have that hangover there. We'll be directly down on the beads. Okay? And I thank you for joining us, and we'll get back to you in a couple of days once this is all dry. Here's Dad and I out here with our finished tabletop. As you can see, he can sit there, he can drink. Now he's going to put his glass down and show you how we can use this as a table as well as a fireplace cover. And we'll go over here and have a closer look at it. We trimmed off the edge. We're looking at it upside down here, but I'm going to circle around it here. Give you pictures of Dad's feet. There you go. And there's our table, all finished. Edge has been trimmed off. We're all ready to go. And I think it just turned out lovely. I'm very happy with it. So we'll see what yours turns like. If you get one finished, be sure and tweet me a picture or email me a picture. I'd love to see it. Put it on Facebook. I want to see your creations. Thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoyed it and find this educational.